We are joined by Rick Horrow, CEO of Horrow Sports Ventures, author of 4 books, the managing editor for sports at the Library of Congress, and the man behind The Power of Sports, available on many of the Fox regional sports affiliates. Now, Rick, you send over some information, and I was staggered by the amount of money that it costs employers during March Madness. Over $13 billion is lost because people are doing their, watching games and checking on their brackets and going to long lunches to watch games. It's amazing. I mean, basically, maybe some businesses should shut down and call it spring break.
2 national holidays, Saturday, Friday, and Saturday of this week, maybe. It's that annual Challenger Gray and Christmas study, and they talked about every hour spent on a game can cost employers about $2.1 billion, about $13 billion for the tournament.
Wow. And
a study that was done as part of the support by office teams says that workers spend an average of 25 and a half minutes of their workday on March Madness-related activities. And, of course, QuickBooks showed that 48% of the people participating in March Madness won their brackets, admittedly during work hours. Listen, everybody's talking about how it cuts productivity. I say a productive worker, a happy worker, they're the same. If you're happy, you're going to work harder. So if your boss tells you to stop, you tell him that I said and Sansevier said, go right ahead and do it.
You're darn tootin'. Hey, I am defending champion in the Brad Johnson bracket pool against, it's a lot of media people, former players, team officials. So I've got a record to defend. Now, did you do your bracket? I only do one bracket. I don't do different ones. Do you do brackets?
I did my bracket. My mixer, God bless her, is about 12 years old. I stuck a little piece of paper and paint on her paw, and yeah, she did it. She did it fine. And by the way, she had Belmont winning last night, so we're off to a good start.
Who does she have winning it all?
Duke, but her boss, her master had Duke too.
Well,
as does everybody in the family, as probably does everybody in the country.
Well, last year I had Duke, and that's what led me to win. But I did not go. Maybe I got cocky because I won last year, but I did not even put Duke in the Final Four. I had them losing to Michigan State. Going on, because I do believe trends and numbers do, and you're a numbers guy. No team that is shot below 30% from behind the arc has ever made the Final Four, and that's Duke. If they hit a hot shooting, team that could hit from 3, they're in trouble. And
that's fair. But listen, all of the Achilles' heels were Zion Williamson out, and what they do, I'm sure, when they miss the outside shots is clear the paint, let the guy go. And I don't care how many people you have on him.
Well, see, I went, my national champion is Tennessee, because if Zion Williamson didn't exist, Tennessee would have the guy who was the player of the year. So it's, we'll see what happens. I'm playing off a championship, so I'm cocky. I went with a few things that may not have been, but to me, picking Duke is going to be tough to win a championship because many people are picking Duke. Then you have to get down to the point spread. If it comes to be a tie or something like that. So
I care about my family loyalty. I could care less about how important it is for you to win a championship. So the bottom line is, you do yours, I do mine, and we meet in the middle. We'll figure what happens.
Not argue. Now, I wanted to bet you too. We talked about the over $3 billion in productivity loss, but that's double what is bet. What is the number? Is it over $6 billion bet on March Madness?
Yeah, legally, and of course, there's going to be more legally, but we still don't know what the answer is relative to the illegal betting. And here's an interesting thing. The American Gaming Association talks about $4.6 billion. It's probably higher. 149 million total tournament brackets. How about that?
Oh, my God.
40 million people. And, by the way, 40% of the entrants think the office pools are legal, and 38% of them are unsure. Here's the trick, and I didn't know if you knew this, but the law called PASPA was passed relative to office pools and other electronic transfers. 13 states have made betting illegal, L-E-G-A-L, off of what that PASPA stuff did. So your office pool is illegal, just so you understand, and I am available to get you out of jail. Whether I want to is another story.
Well,
now, of course, nobody's going to enforce it.
In mine, it's a pride-only pool. There's no money exchanging
pride
hands.
Only?
Yeah, pride-only.
Really?
Yeah, because what are you going to make? A few $100 tops?
All right. Hey, Mr. Pride Only, why don't you send me a copy of this after it's over? I just want this in my record, Pride Only, just in case
That's all it is.
turns into something else.
There's no money involved. Hey, I'm dealing with this. Has got a lot of people who could get themselves in trouble, ruin future political careers, perhaps. They don't want to take any chances. Yeah.
Very well put. How did we digress?
Yeah,
but that's okay.
Exactly. Now, I was a little surprised to see that the Raiders will be in Oakland this season before moving to. I thought it was so contentious and that relationship was fractured. But what put it together ultimately? Oakland did not want to lose them for one more, a year early.
Money put together, $7.5 million each year, plus they wiped out the $750,000 that was in contention by the Raiders paying it. So it was easy then for the stadium authority to say, yeah, let's do it. The Raiders, of course, didn't like staying, but the alternatives didn't work, and they wanted to appeal to their fan base for a little while, and that's what happened. So they all came together based on something that we all appreciate, money.
Was there ever any discussion during any of this that once they moved to Vegas, they might throw a bone to Oakland and have whether an exhibition game or even to call it an away game where they're home, not going to London obviously, but going to Oakland for a game, sort of to go back for those fans that were so loyal and have been basically abandoned before by this Raider team when they went to L.A.
Yeah, the bone depends on a lot of things that are beyond just talk, like what they're planning to do with the football stadium after the Raiders leave. There's a lot of discussion about making sure that it stays available for things, but there's nothing that's going to go there once they leave other than maybe a few high school games, and the maintenance and upkeep on that stadium is pretty significant. So I'm not sure that's technically feasible. It might have been feasible maybe year one in Vegas, but probably not long term, although it's a good conversation.
Have you've been to games at the stadium, right, in Oakland?
Of course. O.co, Alameda County, whatever you want to call it, I've been there.
Well, I mean, I've been to most, if not all, NFL stadiums. I've never seen a bigger pit than that. It's horrible.
It's been the biggest and oldest pit for a while. It's not just it moved into that. It's been that way for a while. So, good for the Raiders to get the Vegas deal done. And when you see the new stadium being completed in Vegas, it's not just for football, clearly, but it'll be, or NFL, be Final Fours and conventions and concerts and Super Bowls and all the stuff that Vegas is good for.
Now, we're coming up on, obviously, the Final Four will be in Minneapolis. But that week, it is an incredible block of a week to 10 days when you've got the Final Four, you've got the Masters, and you've got the start of baseball. There, in your mind, is there a better block of time in the year than that? I mean, Super Bowl's great, but it's a standalone.
No, that's always very important to me. I'll take a plane from Minneapolis and head down to Augusta, and that's an incredible week of events. The Wednesday of the Masters, we'll talk about it, is an incredible event. You can take pictures. Everybody is there, a little more informal. And, of course, the Part 3, which is unforgettable, too.
It's I went there about 15 years in a row when newspapers could still afford to send people to such events. And what I loved about it, the first year I went was the first year of the press tent, where they actually had the building, not the tent. It went from a tent to a building. And I was the first year of the building. So every year to me, it was like I'd been there a few weeks before from year to year because things changed very slightly. They might have made move one of the pins, but I loved going to Augusta National. It just felt it just felt special. And it is special because that's what I love about the Masters, that it's always obviously at the same site. And it's just it's to me one of the great events in sports. And if people ever have an opportunity, they should jump at it because it's just gorgeous there.
And we'll talk about it as we get closer to the tournament, but it is a 1 in a million. It is the best.
As you are 1 in a million. Rick, I don't think I could top that, so I'm going to say thanks a lot for taking the time. Looking forward to talking to you next week and seeing you in a few weeks at the Final Four.